Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight I want to welcome Michael Ladano to the show. We are going to take a look at the 90s supergroup Neurotic Outsiders. This band contained John Taylor from Duran, Duff, McKagan and Sorum from Guns N' Roses, and Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols. They put out one record, that was it. This is part of a new series called One and Done. So we're going to be looking at more of these artists that put out one record and then totally disappear. So let's get ready. Michael's here. We're going to get this one going. Michael Ladano, how are you?
Oh, I was just pumping my fist to that song.
I mean, good God, it just gets you ready for pumped. So we're
with
pumping.
caffeine.
And you've got Tim Hortons, and we are live. We've already got 7 people here, and we already have a thumbs up. My goodness. Oh, and it's you giving the thumbs up. Well, my God.
Back in the deck.
It's like self-promoting. So anyway, I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
Tonight we're doing like a dual stream. So we're streaming on my channel and on Michael's channel. So this might break the internet. We're kind of doing an experiment. We'll see what happens. But if it becomes shaky, everyone hold the handrails and be careful.
That's right.
But tonight we are looking at the 90s supergroup Neurotic Outsiders. Now I had this idea a while back to do, me and Ernesto, I don't know, I hope Ernesto's going to show, about looking at these artists that put out like one record and then that's it. No, nothing more. Not another peep, and there's a whole bunch of them, that could be in part of the series. But Michael had the idea to do the Neurotic Outsiders, so that's what we're going to hit. So like I said in the opening, this consisted of Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols, Sorum and Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses, and John Taylor of Duran.
That's right.
The original lineup also included Billy Idol and Steve Stevens.
That would have been different.
And that would have been with McKagan and Sorum, but I'm not sure the whole story. But I'm sure Michael may know the horse story. We'll hit that. But it's just funny that John Taylor of Duran would be in this. You wouldn't think of that, but it works.
But it turns out that Neurotic Outsiders, this album that we are talking about tonight, came out in 1996. But in 1995, John Taylor released a solo album called Feelings Are Good and Other Lies, which featured 2 songs on this, including Feelings Are Good, and also had Steve Jones playing some guitar in that. So that sort of led into this. On the other side of the pond in Hollywood, we had Duff and Matt jamming at the Viper Room with various people, and Stevie Jones was hanging out, and it all kind of coalesced together into this band, and they started getting offers for a record deal. Look at that parental advisory right there in the corner. You can't. I know.
Well, if anybody's heard this record, you will understand what that means, because the opening track is a bit questionable. And no wonder it got that sticker on the front. Holy crap.
And it goes from there, because the opening track is a song called Nasty Ho. And then we have Jerk, which actually is lyrically even worse. And there's quite a few tracks. Union is interesting lyrically. There's a real, actually, I kind of like some of the lyrics on this album, as bad as some of them.
Well, when I listened to it, I was kind of first of all, when I do something like this, I really pay attention to the music. The lyrics are something that are secondary. Okay.
Sure.
But today I thought, when I listen to it, I'm really going to pay attention to the lyrics. And by doing that, I was like, well, my goodness gracious, because I could see where they would give that parental advisory.
Well, this opening track that we're talking about is essentially about Steve Jones having a romantic interlude with a woman, and then finding out afterwards that he was expected to be paying for this romantic interlude, and he doesn't have any. He's short on cash. He doesn't have any pocket change, any petty cash. That's a polite way of putting it.
Right. But there was one thing I want to mention that on this record. Since it is a super group, you might as well call it that. Everybody takes a turn singing it, other than
Matt.
Other than Matt. But Duff, Steve, and John Taylor all take lead vocals. And when you're talking Nasty Ho, I know Steve Jones put out a couple of solo records like in the late 80s.
Yeah.
I didn't really pay attention to those.
I'd like a copy of Fire and Gasoline if anybody out there can hook me up.
There you go. Oh, there's Ernesto.
Hey, Ernesto.
Ernesto, what is happening, my brother?
Be careful, my friend. Be careful.
Star Peter, Star. We couldn't have a show without Star. She's always here. Well, she's been a little lax lately, but she's here tonight, so that's all that matters.
Good.
Anyway, but now I got all sidetracked. But well, Steve Jones vocals. That's what I was going to.
Okay, yeah.
I really dig his vocals.
Funny you should say that because I do too. But in terms of Duff McKagan lead vocals, I think the one track that he sings, and it's escaping me now.
Good News.
Good News. I think
Revolution. Honestly, he sings those two.
Good News, honestly, is my favorite Duff McKagan vocal period out of the entire career. So there's that. I agree with you on Stevie Jones singing on some of these songs. Actually, and quite surprisingly, there's a ballad on here called Union that is a little bit sentimental, and he kind of delivers,
But I'm thinking, just to go back to Steve Jones for a minute, Angelina.
Oh my God. That's the song I was just singing about 3 minutes ago before we went live.
Catchy. And I think that was released as a single. If
it was.
But actually, my God, Steve Jones sounds freaking great.
It's funny you should say that. That's the one single that I'm missing is Angelina. This is the one we were talking about the other day.
Okay.
I do have, wherever I put my stuff, I do have Jerk, the first single.
Okay.
As sung by Steve Jones. And that has a bonus track on it called Seattle Head.
Is that domestic? Is that Canadian? What is that? Is that an import?
That's a good question that someone like Tim Derling would ask.
Yeah, where is Tim Derling from?
This is WIA International outside of the US, made in Germany.
All right, made in Germany.
Yeah. And the track Seattle Head is kind of like just how Duff is he's not digging the Hollywood lifestyle. He wants to go back home to Seattle. Hey, Jax, how you doing, buddy?
How's it going? Thanks for coming by. Ernesto is appreciative that we wish him safe travels.
Well, I want to tell Ernesto a story, and sorry, Grant, if I'm derailing your train here. I like to tell anecdotes, and my discovery of Neurotic Outsiders is 110% due to my cohort and partner in crime back in my record store days, guy by the name of Trevor Girdot. And he was a huge Guns N' Roses fan, and he was also a drummer, big Matt Sorum fan. And he's like, Mike, you got to hear this band, Neurotic Outsiders. It's Matt and Duff, and it's Steve Jones, and it's John Taylor. You got to hear it. And that album cover that we're looking at there kind of turned me off. I'm like, this looks dumb. Like, it looked like any generic 90s rock crap that was clogging the shelves at the time, right? And he's like, no, trust me. So I put the CD on, and I loved it. But the thing about Trevor is that, like I said, he's a drummer. And we would go driving with this CD, actually cassette. I recorded it to cassette for the car.
Of course.
We'd go driving with this thing in, constantly jammed in that tape deck, whether it was his car or my car. But when I was driving, him being the drummer, he would start playing drums in the passenger side. And Matt Sorum's style, and he throws it on a lot on this album, that that you can't you could be mine, the drum part, he uses that all the time, and I love it. That's like his stamp. So Trevor would be in my passenger side doing the hitting every drum beat, just his thighs would be red because that would be his snare drums. His thighs would be red after we arrived at our destination. But we had so many good road trips to this album with him playing drums on his thighs and using my floorboards as his bass pedal. I remember he used to say my car had good bass, and by that he meant the floorboards hitting the bass. So that got me passionate about this band. It's all about your own personal experience with music. It always is. If you listen to the greatest album of the world, during a tragedy in your life, you know, I understand why that album never connected with you. But this one, that summer, the summer of 96, it was my first year managing that record store. Me and Trevor were just cruising all the time with this thing in the deck, and that sticks with you. That was a lot of years ago. almost 30. Well,
but it doesn't seem that long ago.
No, it certainly doesn't. It's hard to believe. But you know, we thought we were the youngest, coolest guys in the world rocking this music.
You were then.
I guess so. We knew about this band that not too many people were aware of.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll be honest, before you mentioned it, I had never heard of them before. This totally went by, you know, and I'm a music nut. I freaking love Duran, love the Sex Pistols. I don't care for Guns N' Roses. We already know that from the Contrarians. But it totally slipped by me. And I'm just wondering if maybe if you look at the album cover, you mentioned the album cover is a bit questionable. Yeah, it's really sucky.
Like who is this? Is this you know, the new album by Smash Mouth or something like that? Like it's generic crap.
Right. I think that might have had a lot to do with it. But you were in the record store. Let me ask you this: was there any promotion that you was there any promotion back in the day for Maverick about this record? Do you remember any push or anything? Because, of course, you know, backing from the record company has a lot to do with the success of a record.
Especially for a rock band in the 90s.
Yeah. I don't remember anything.
I'm trying to think, and I cannot remember seeing like any flyers. We would get flyers and stuff like that. I don't remember seeing any promos, posters, freebies, nothing. No, I don't remember.
Well, we're talking 96. They're probably still, Maverick's still probably pumping Alanis Morissette probably. Still,
oh yeah. So she was on my top 5 all the time, every week, you know. Neurotic. You know, it just occurred to me what that cover refers to now. I just got it now. Because I was telling you earlier, their original name was Neurotic Outsiders. So if you look at the cover, Neurotic, there's the boy, there's the Outsiders. I just got that. And Steve Jones didn't like the title, so they shortened it to Neurotic Outsiders.
Yeah, it's better. Neurotic Outsiders.
It's way better.
It's better than Neurotic. Yeah, it's
no, I can't. Like it doesn't come out of the. You trip over it when you try to say it.
D would say 0 promo.
I'd agree with D.
Yeah, I don't remember anything.
No,
and I never even heard it. It just went by. In fact, now something like this in the 90s, you would think these would show up in cutout bins. Because they pressed them, no one bought it, and I don't even remember seeing any cutouts of these back in the 90s at all.
No, me neither. I don't think they must not have printed very many,
right?
Relatively. I did have a thought. Oh, I know what it was. At this time, Guns N' Roses were basically on ice. I know that they were quote unquote rehearsing and demoing and stuff like that, but nothing got done. Duff was on his way out and Matt was on his way out. We were hungry for anything Guns N' Roses related, meaning myself and my friends. And even so, I was not interested in this until Trevor basically said, damn it, just listen to it, because of the cover. It was uninteresting to me. And unlike yourself, I was not a Sex Pistols fan, but this is the album that got me to buy Nevermind the Bollocks. I was like, maybe I like the Sex Pistols.
Well, so you bought it, and what was your thoughts?
I'm now a Sex Pistols fan. I mean,
well, you know what, on this record,
we got one album basically, right? So,
well, yeah,
you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah, but
I do like them. I mean, I listened actually in preparation for today. I listened to a lot of different side projects related to Neurotic Outsiders, and one of the albums I played today was the Sex Pistols' Filthy Lucre Live from 96, which coincides with this. That was one of the reasons these guys couldn't do much in terms of touring, because the Pistols were active. And I love that Filthy Lucre Live album. That was actually something that got me into the Pistols along with the Neurotic Outsiders. I was like, I'll give this a listen. And I really enjoyed what they sounded like live in 96. John Lydon was singing with sort of that ridiculous vibrato in his voice. But he was kind of funny and charming on stage in a certain way. He's like, I remember on one song on Did You Know Wrong, he says, we're fat, 40 and back. I was just like, that's hilarious. That's hilarious to me. So yeah, Neurotic Outsiders got me into the Pistols, and I've never really gotten into Duran, although I certainly appreciate them.
Oh, I love Duran. Well, the first album and Rio are 5-star records, and then the third record, cracks are starting to form, and then Roger Taylor left, and I don't know, I kind of lost interest. But I think Rio is one of the best records of the 80s. It's absolutely perfect. Good. There is not one bad track on it. It's absolutely brilliant. So that could be for another show. But the thing I want to mention about the Neurotic Outsiders is the guitar tone on here. And if you like Nevermind the Bullocks, I mean, obviously you could tell it's Steve Jones playing guitar on here. His guitar tone is so distinct. I mean, it sounds like the Sex Pistols.
It does.
It does.
And there's a couple riffs on here. Jerk, I believe, starts with a total Pistols riff. That is that's totally God Save the Queen.
It is. Incredible.
Now on this album, it's Steve Jones and Duff McKagan playing guitar, both rhythm and lead, apparently, according to one of the interviews that I read. Duff did play some lead. That's kind of cool.
I'm not sure what he played on.
No, there's no like breakdown or anything.
All it does is all I see is a breakdown of who sang lead.
Yeah.
Anybody,
and that's fairly obvious by the sound of the voice when you hit play.
But I don't know. I'm just surprised. This came out in '96 and just absolutely did nothing. And I think if it had the proper promotion and maybe they were on the wrong label. Like I said, they were on Maverick. Maybe Madonna was didn't really care, and they just threw him a bone and said, oh yeah, we can put it out on our record label. And they were just so busy with Alanis Morissette that I just think it kind of got by the wayside. And the thing is, I do want to thank you for throwing this band out, because this is exactly the same kind of thing that I like to cover on this channel. Bands that no one's talking about, bands that have went by the wayside. They had their chance. It could have been something. God knows what they could have become. I'm just saying, you never know, but wasn't meant to be.
No,
but
again, circumstances. The Pistols were touring, and Axl wanted Duff and Matt in the studio pronto. We know how that
money
turned out.
Talks.
Yeah, I mean, all those guys. Yeah, I mean, Guns was a cash cow, right? And obviously Duff quit and Matt got fired. I can't remember in which order, but basically in the year following Neurotic Outsiders.
Well, Axl's probably pissed that they did this outside project.
Well, see, that's another thing, is that I heard stories about Slash's Snake Pit and how Axl was really pissed off that he released that album because he's like, some of those songs are great. Those are Guns N' Roses songs. Why are you releasing them? And I wonder if he ever felt that way about any of these songs, because certainly some of them could have worked well by Guns.
Oh, I agree 100%. Yeah. I mean, most of it, a lot of the material on this record is very accessible to some degree. The lyrical content,
not the lyrics.
Questionable, not commercial, but they could have re-recorded some of those. But Star, you are 100% right. With all their prior commitments, yep, they do. Yeah. But these bands have to be creative. These musicians have to be creative. Duff they can't sit around.
Duff writes. He writes. He's written, I don't know how many songs, but he's written for Iggy Pop. He's written for. Just look at the guy's writing credits. The guy is a writing machine.
So I'm going to throw this out to you. I don't know if you know anything about this.
Okay.
But Billy Idol and Stevie Stevens were part of the band originally.
Right.
Do you know what the story is behind that?
No, not exactly. It's just a matter of these guys were all jamming at the Viper Room. And of course, Billy Idol and Steve Stevens were there. And these jams did turn into this band, but I'm not sure the circumstances.
Why
Probably Idol and Stevens were busy doing something else. I don't remember what Idol and Stevens were doing in 1996. I don't remember. I know
not making any hits. I know
not making any hits. No, and Steve Stevens was not in Vince Neil's band anymore, and I think he quit. Now, maybe a viewer knows better than I do. I think Steve Stevens quit Vince Neil's band to reunite with Billy Idol, but do not quote me on that. So I imagine they had something going on.
It probably had something to do with their calendars and commitments and all that,
Yeah. I mean, look at all these bands like the Dead Daisies and whatnot. They all start around a nucleus, and then that changes and changes and changes and changes.
Well, think about 96. What were Duran really doing?
I don't remember. I know that they had just done a year prior. I think, what was it? White Lines? Was that did they do a covers album? I think. Yeah, I'm sure somebody here can tell me.
Like I said, once the Tiger album came out, I kind of went.
You kind of checked out.
Well, wasn't quite the same,
Yeah.
Plus, they had Nile Rodgers, and they were going more of a dance thing, and I'm going, Yeah. Producer, choose your producer wisely is what I always say. But this record, what do you think?
Speaking of producer, this one's produced by Jerry Harrison, and he did a bang-up job. Like, this is some of the best-sounding drums of Matt Sorum's, period.
Well, I was going to say that the whole record sounds, to me, it sounds almost like they're playing live in the studio. I mean, It's very live sounding. There's a lot of energy. I don't know if they recorded it live in the studio, but it sure sounds like it. And Jerry Harrison from the Talking Heads, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, did a smashing job. I'll give him that.
I think whether this was live in the studio or not, what makes it really tight is Matt Sorum's drums. And again, I'm a Matt Sorum fan. Some people are Steven Adler fans, but my style is more the Matt Sorum. And former Tori Amos drummer Matt Sorum, former Cult and Tori Amos drummer Matt Sorum. And I also loved him. He did a jazz track on Burning for Buddy, the album that Neil Peart put together for Buddy Rich. So, I love that style of drums. I think he kept it tight. And it's obviously much tighter than a Sex Pistols album, which is one thing that I had to adjust to when I jumped onto the Pistols. It's like, I hear the same punk energy, but man, this Pistols stuff is ragged. Whereas this isn't. This is very tight. Even vocally, it's very tight. They harmonize a bit. There's a lot of harmonizing, which you wouldn't expect from basically what is almost like a punk supergroup here.
Kinda, yeah.
Punk,
definitely is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Duran in their background, I mean,
they had a punk background.
They had a punk background. So, yeah, it all makes sense while these guys are all together. And Duff was in a punk man, too, prior to the Guns N' Roses.
Big time. He was their punk guy. On the, when they started doing punk covers, it was usually Duff, Attitude. That was Duff bringing that stuff
So
in.
It all makes sense why these guys all came together. They all had like a mutual interest to some degree. But when you first got turned on to this record, did you ever like one of those moments like, holy crap, I, just can't believe what I'm hearing?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think Angelina, the track that you mentioned, was the track where that happened, because it's phenomenal. The hooks, the riff, the vocals, it's phenomenal. No, and lyrically, it's actually one of the better tracks. It's not vulgar, but it does have that edge. It's about an aging beauty queen who's there's a line there. How many times must you go under the knife? Your face is like plaster. that Corvette won't go faster. There's a Hollywood billboard. That's your life. So, it's obviously about a very specific type of woman and not in a complimentary way. So there's that edge, but it's not vulgar like the other tracks.
Yeah. I thought that maybe Angelina was released as a single, but I only see that. Well, I only see that it was they released a 5-song EP of it.
Okay, then that's the one I'm thinking of. That's Japanese the one that I'm missing.
Only, but
that's the one I'm missing.
Okay.
It has 2 bonus tracks on it that I do not have.
But it's an obvious single. And I think if it had the proper promotion, it would have done something. But
you're right. It's a better song to release as a single than Jerk. But on the other hand, this one's called Jerk. And wow, that's a good way to get people's attention in 1996. Why not?
Sure. I mean, are there any tracks like non-LP tracks on that?
Yeah.
Are there? Okay.
One called Seattle Head. That's the one. The one that I was talking about, Duff being homesick for Seattle, because that's where he's from.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
I think I read once that Duff was one of the last people to speak to Kurt Cobain alive. I may be wrong on that, but
I don't know. There's some interview I know out on YouTube where he's talking about it.
Really, eh? Yeah. I mean, Duff is just one of those guys that he loves music. He loves heavy, aggressive music too. Mm-hmm. And it would just make sense that he would have no beef with Kurt Cobain, you know?
Well, I can't, he seemed like every interview I've seen with the guy, he always seems very pleasant.
Yes.
Willing to talk, very,
He's intelligent. The guy's got a master's degree in accounting or something, you know?
Intelligent, but then is a drug addict. I don't know. Well, doesn't make sense.
Well, it's one of those things where the guy sometime in the 90s, his pancreas was about to shut down and he completely changed his life. And sometimes that's what it takes. You're facing death.
Well, if you listen to anything with Nikki Sixx, holy crap, the dude is very bright. Well spoken. Yeah. But man, did you ever read that? I know we're going on a tangent, but we always do on this channel.
Yeah.
Did you ever read Heroin Diaries? Did you read that book?
I did. It only took a day to read it. There's not much text in it.
I know, but holy mackerel.
He spent half of that book hiding in his closet. With a shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would need to come down. So he'd have to call some dealer to give him something to come down. And then, damn, I got to get myself back up because I got to write some lyrics for Girls album.
I'd highly recommend the Heroin Diaries to anybody who's interested in anything like that, or anything where there's a book from a drug addict, because the lifestyle,
it's completely alien.
He lives in like this gigantic house, and he was basically living in the closet.
He was barricading himself.
It's just crazy.
I lost my train of thought.
I know. We're just talking about stuff. Duff and his wife have a show on Sirius. He plays a lot of different types of music. Star, what does he usually play? Does he play like punk and new wave stuff? I'm just curious. I have Sirius, but I've never heard the show.
No, neither have I.
I don't know.
I have a lot of respect for him today. I didn't when he was killing himself, but
everybody's got to have a hobby. Your hobbies change throughout life.
It's true. Killing yourself though isn't really a long-term hobby.
It's kind of short-term.
Yes, it's like a one and done, like this album.
Very focused. Yeah.
I think he's actually a decent bass player, and I think he's a great songwriter. And like I said, some of his vocals on this album are damn fine. Fine.
I think the vocals on the whole thing are great.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if John Taylor has he ever sung outside of his solo stuff? I don't know.
I've never heard any solo stuff. I know when he was in Power Station, I don't think he sang. That was all, Robert Palmer.
Yeah.
And I don't think Andy Taylor ever sang.
Well, you kind of let Robert Palmer do the singing, I think.
Well, if you got Robert Palmer,
you let him sing.
Get
out of his way.
But I think, here we go. D says it's a decent record. I understand no promo for these guys. They were still vital.
See, that's the thing. Steve was hip again with the Pistols. I discovered the Pistols that year because they were reunited. He's right. He's 100% right.
And, nostalgia, we're talking 96. Wasn't that long ago that Duran was, hip and all that.
I swear to God, they had a hit in 95. 3 Chords and the Truth. Okay.
Yeah, 95 was like that one record. I think it was that Duran, Ordinary World or something, maybe.
I think that was earlier. I think that's more 93.
Oh, well, shit.
You know what? I'm going to quickly do a Wikipedia.
If we only had a way to look stuff up, Michael. If we only had a way to look stuff up.
I know that I'm remembering a Duran hit. Now, where's the Wikipedia? You Google Duran, then you got to find the Wikipedia. I know that they had a hit when I was working at the record store during that first year. And that album must have been Thank You, which was
Thank You.
Their covers of White Lines. There it is,
yeah.
White Lines. And John Taylor did play on this album. They were down to a 4-piece at this point with Warren Cucurullo.
Mm-hmm.
Famous.
Missing Persons, Frank Zappa.
Yes. And also famous flat earther, Warren Cucurullo.
And wasn't he a porn star to some degree?
I heard something about that. I don't think he was a porn star, but I think he did like artful art. I don't know.
It was questionable. I'm gonna
just
give
assure
it
the viewers that I have not researched that.
I have not, but I was aware from somewhere.
He's an interesting guy. Let's put it that way.
Well, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can search that for yourself, but
you know what, Grant? I'm just not gonna.
I'm not, but someone out there, one of the viewers may want to check that out. But
they might.
They
might not, but they might.
Not. But I love Warren's work on missing persons. I love that stuff.
Yeah,
Terry Bozzio.
I'm not dissing the guy's playing in any way, shape, or form. He's just an interesting person, as many artists are.
That's
as right. Many art. Frank Zappa was attracted to interesting personalities.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is that.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious. I mean, I don't know. We don't have to rate this record. We're just kind of talking about the band in general and talking about this record. But I'm just curious, if you were going to rate this record out of 10, what would you give it?
9.
Holy crap!
But that's personal.
It's always personal.
Now, I'll tell you one thing. Maybe a good bar to judge this by is like you have been playing this record a lot this week.
Yep.
And I really wanted to skip any tracks. I think maybe Duff.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say maybe the Duff closer 6 Feet Under is the only one that I'm not like 110% into, but like even some of the ballads.
I think it's okay too.
Like I actually like the ballads. That song Union that Steve Jones sings, it's lyrically, it's definitely crude. He's talking about masturbation and all kinds of other stuff, but it's a nice ballad and there's some nice harmonizing on it.
And Janie Jones, you like?
Oh, that's a freaking great.
Of course, that's
cover.
A Clash song. Yeah. But Steve and Duff, share vocals on that. I mean,
there's one bit at the very beginning of Janie Jones where Steve's voice gets all distorted right at the very beginning. She's in love with the rock and roll world. And then it sounds so freaking great. I love it. And I just have to wonder if that's something that was an accident in the studio and they said, no, leave it because it's punk rock to leave it in. I don't know what the story is, but I love that. It's just one garbled bit. I just love it.
Right. Well, there you go. Me personally, I think the sequencing on this record, I did a show on sequencing. I'm always looking for sequencing.
Okay.
And Angelina comes it's kind of weird. This is a CD. This never came out on vinyl. But Nasty Ho, I'll give it to you. It does. You placing that at the beginning of the record really does make it stand out. I will give it that.
The only bad thing you can say about it is the lyrics.
Yeah. But, Angelina's like the third track in. Oh, Always Wrong with John Taylor's great.
Love that song.
Good News with Duff. I love it how they've got all the vocals are all spread out through the record.
Yeah. It's like a Kiss album. You get a Paul, a Gene, a Peter, an Ace, a Paul.
It's true though.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that this never really took off. Wait a minute. What rolls off the lips as a porn star? Uh-huh. D gives it a solid 7.5. A person can't like this record. It's fun. It is fun. And you know what I think? If you really listen to it, it's like they're just doing what they want to do.
Oh, clearly.
They don't have an agenda. They're just, let's play some songs. Let's write some songs. And
think about it, man. Think about it. Matt and Duff are stuck in the studio waiting for a lead singer to show up. They're frustrated as hell because they're not making music.
Right.
I imagine Steve Jones is probably also frustrated because the Pistols there were always rumors the Pistols were going to make new music, but they never did. Right. I imagine these guys were frustrated musically and they wanted to do music just desperately. Mm-hmm. They obviously had music in them bubbling to come out.
Right.
I often think back to that time when Guns was in chaos, what it was like as a work environment. You would certainly call it a toxic workplace.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if those guys even liked each other. I think it was all about no, I don't think so. Well, obviously now it's just a business,
Yeah. But they can certainly tolerate each other now. They can certainly walk into a room and not
everybody's
hate each other.
Clean, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that was a condition.
Yeah. Because, well, did you ever read Stephen Adler's book?
I did. I don't remember a lot of it. I didn't like it because I felt a lot of it was kind of like, oh, woe is me. But I also felt like a lot of that was his own fault too.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh. I might be being too
harsh.
But
I read Slash's book. You know, they were all good.
They were.
I mean, for a person who's not into Guns N' Roses, I'm just fascinated how they could even function.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like the whole Motley Crue thing. How can these guys go into a studio and produce something? You know?
Well, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. When they were young, they barely knew each other. I mean, they'd been together. Some of those guys had been together for, a handful of years.
Mm-hmm.
They're young, they're hungry, and then they start to get to know each other when they have to live on top of each other on a tour bus for, year and a half to 2 years. And then the proof in the pudding is Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. It took them forever to get anything. And, that was always... It was almost like the Chinese democracy of the 80s. When's the new Guns coming out?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the new Guns will be out next year. And then next year rolls around. It doesn't come out. Finally comes out in 91. But that was almost like a running joke. Well, when's the new Guns coming out? Oh, it'll be out in 89.
Well, I hosted one of the Contrarians episodes where we looked at Chinese democracy.
Yeah.
And the panel, basically, everyone liked it.
I like it. I don't like all of it. And I don't like it as much as I played Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 today. I don't like it as much as those albums, but I like it. Like, I just like those guys. And Vince Neil was an overrated singer when they came out. And he does seriously need
Vince
to stop.
Wasn't hired to sing. Vince was hired to look good.
He was hired to be a frontman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of like David Lee Roth, though I like David Lee Roth's vocals.
David Lee Roth is a smart man.
Well, he ran the band,
He knew how to work an image, like all those photo shoots and all those videos, putting an emphasis on the lead guitar player, letting him have the spotlight. Todd Kerns, Canadian boy,
mm-hmm.
from a band called Age of Electric.
I've seen Todd Kerns on. Hasn't he been on like? I don't know. I've seen him on some YouTube shows.
Yeah, I think he has his own podcast. He plays with Bruce Kulick and those guys all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is he talking about Chinese democracy still being great? I'm not sure.
Yeah, D, what are you talking about? Chinese democracy? I don't know, but everybody on the panel liked it. They liked it a lot more than a lot of the other stuff they had put out. So,
I'll tell you that I think at least half of it, of Chinese democracy, deserves to be given a fair shake live with the current lineup. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that much has been played live with the current lineup, because I know they sprinkle certain songs in. Yeah, Todd Kerns, damn it. Although he spells it with 2 M's. Damn it, with 2 M's.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And Chinese democracy, when it came out, did that even really, we might have talked about that in the panel, but I don't remember. Did that even really do anything? It just kind of came out. And
it came out. I don't know what it sold ultimately. Maybe went platinum. Who knows?
And it was like a Best Buy thing too.
That I don't remember, because I wasn't paying attention to that. I just went to the store and I bought it in a combo pack that came with a T-shirt, and I was happy. Like I said, I think a good solid 6 songs of those need to be given a fair shake. But what I wanted to tell you is, for various friends of mine that like Guns N' Roses but weren't necessarily into Chinese democracy, I would get my back in the day when I was burning CDs. I would get my old CD burner out and I would make them a custom alternate Chinese democracy, where I would throw in songs from the solo albums of that period that maybe should have been Guns songs. Mm-hmm. So Dead Flowers from Gilby Clarke's solo album, which has Axl Rose on vocals. A few songs from the Slash's Snake Pit, a few songs from Duff, Believe in Me, a few songs from Izzy Stradlin's solo album, a few songs from Gilby's, a few songs from Neurotic Outsiders. And I kind of built this really awesome alternate Chinese democracy for my friends that did not like it. Mm-hmm. And aside from the fact that Axl is barely on it, because of, I'm taking it from all the other solo projects, he's barely on it. Mm-hmm. It's a good listen. It was a good listen. They could have made another album that wasn't Chinese democracy if these guys had only been able to get in a room and speak like adults to each other, pull one song off of Slash's album. Beggars and Hangers On would have been freaking amazing with Axl singing. And I understand that there's rehearsal audio of Slash playing that riff. Yeah.
Cure Me
Slash
or
on lead guitar. Slash played lead guitar on that. Like Gilby's solo album had every member of Guns on it. Every member.
And if I remember correctly, that record got pretty good reviews.
It worthy of them.
Mm-hmm.
He had a real kind of Stonesy jangle on that album, but then he also had sort of a punk rock vibe on songs like Jail Guitar Doors. The Gilby album, 100%, man. Like, he is a really talented guy. Really talented guy.
Up. I'm sure you can probably get it used for not very much. I don't know. What label did that come on? Did you remember when that came out? What year did that come out?
It was 95. The album was called Pawn Shop Guitars.
Yes.
And it was basically, I think, his only major label release, if I'm not mistaken. But it's fantastic.
I'm going to get it.
That I don't have. But like I said, I want Fire and Gasoline, the one that Ian Astbury from The Cult produced. That's the one I really want. I don't know why it's so hard to find.
Well, because it didn't sell anything.
I mean, it really must have literally.
When I look in the bins, every now and then, I see, what's the one where Steve Jones is on the cover? It's like the white cover.
I can't remember.
You know what? I think it was just Steve Jones, maybe.
Maybe.
This first solo record, every once in a blue moon, I see that, but I haven't seen it in years. Are you familiar with Checkered Past with Michael DeBar?
No.
I'm not either.
This is the first time I'm hearing about it, but I'm willing to check everything out.
So Johnny Trash, I'm assuming that had a major label release. When did this come out? Let us know, because I'm not sure. I've never heard of it. D likes Checkered Past.
So apparently I got to check out this record.
Evidently, we are not in the know. But we are.
But that's good. I mean, I like if these guys like Neurotic Outsiders and they're telling us to check out Checkered Past, that's encouraging.
Star says Freedom Fighter. Is that Gilby?
I don't know.
What is Freedom Fighter? Star, what's Freedom Fighter? I think that's a Todd Rundgren song.
Aerosmith have a song called Freedom Fighter, as sung by Joe Perry. I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
But nope, don't know.
I don't know. Star, tell us what you're talking about.
Tell us what the deal is. There was one other tune on here I wanted to mention, which is Feelings Are Good. The one that came originally on a John Taylor solo album, which I've never heard, but I'd like to hear it. That song's just freaking heavy. Mm-hmm. It's brilliantly heavy. Unexpectedly heavy. I don't know what else to say about some of the songs on this album, but
I don't really have much.
I'm fond of them.
I would probably give this a solid, well, gosh, you gave it a 9.
I did.
That's strong. I'd probably give it God. That's hard to rate because the whole thing is good. I don't find anything weak on it. I'd probably give it a solid 8. I would.
Okay. We're only apart by a point.
Yeah. But then again, if you ask me what I think's weak on it, I'm going to be hard pressed to find something.
6 Feet Under.
Maybe the weakest. But
I could probably, if I had to, I could probably get rid of Revolution. Although it is one of the heavier, punkier songs. And I just realized I just deleted 2 Duff songs. And Better Way, one of the John Taylor ballads, I could probably lose Better Way. So if I had to lose some songs, it would only be those 3. I could not lose any others.
D thinks that the first Steve Jones album was in 81. That might be right.
Time-wise, that would probably work out.
Freedom Fighter, Steve Jones.
Okay.
All right.
So apparently Steve Jones has a lot more solo stuff than Fire and Gasoline that I need to track down.
Yeah, I think I've seen Fire and Gasoline once used. I remember when it came out new.
Now I'm wondering if Steve Jones and Matt Sorum go back to that period, since Matt was in the Cult at that time and Ian Astbury was producing. I wonder. They probably must have crossed paths at that time. They must have.
That's how it always works. Usually.
I would think so.
But I don't know. Do you have anything more to add about this record? I don't know. I give it a solid 8. If you like Guns N' Roses,
yeah,
you like Well, I don't know. If you like Duran, this is a lot different. This is more like Power Station than Duran.
This is not a Duran sounding in any way.
Checkered Past is an 81. Okay.
I'll start track.
Holy crap, D! That's like early.
Yeah, this is like 96. That would be. I bet you that would be like his first album after the Pistols or something like that.
I would think.
Boy, we really came into this prepared, didn't we?
Well, I didn't know all this other. Well,
let me see if I've got anything else.
This is what's fun, though.
I want to.
You're kind of prepared, but maybe not prepared enough, and you can just rap music. That's all it's about.
I want to just really quickly. A buddy of mine sent me a set list.
Okay.
And I understand they played a completely different bunch of songs when they played in the Viper Club. They had special guests come up on stage. But this was their set list, September 8th, 1996, in Toronto at a venue, amazingly enough, called the Warehaus, but spelled differently. The songs that they played that night were Planet Earth by Duran, going into Nasty Ho, Good News, Always Wrong, Angelina. Then they did a Pistols cover, Silly Thing, which I don't know. Then they did Better Way and Feelings Are Good from this album. Raw Power by the Stooges, which Duff sang. It was covered on Spaghetti Incident. Guns covered that. Then they did Revolution and Union from this album. Black Leather by the Pistols. Again, that was a song that Guns covered. Janie Jones, Jerk, 6 Feet Under. Then a song called Join the Professionals by the Professionals. I don't know that one.
I don't know that, no.
New Rose by the Damned, which, again, Guns did that on Spaghetti Incident. And they ended the show with Bodies by the Pistols. So that would be a damn good show.
I just can't imagine them pulling off Planet Earth, but okay.
I don't know. But yeah, I guess
it's on the first Duran album.
Well, let me ask you this, Grant. If you were Neurotic Outsiders and you had an obligatory Duran song to play to represent that part of your career, which Duran song would you have them play?
Well, you'd want something kind of heavy. Maybe. Right. Well, I think they could probably pull off Wild Boys, maybe.
Or maybe the cover of White Lines that they did on Thank You. But then that wouldn't really be a Duran song. I don't know. Maybe. It's tricky.
I'm trying to think, what would they do? I guess Planet Earth, you might as well go with Planet Earth. There you go. Nice question. I don't know.
How do you feel about Planet Earth as that opening track on that set, though? Opening with Planet Earth and closing with Bodies.
You think it'd be switched around, but
you're right.
Whatever.
Right, yeah. Funny. I'll tell you something.
I could see him playing all the Pistol stuff. I could see that and Stooges and all that. But whatever. I mean, Planet Earth. Well, that's a dance. Michael. I can't imagine. But I think it came out on something. No. There's a non-B-side. January 97, Planet Earth.
Okay.
3 minutes. It's John Taylor and Steve Jones singing it. It's on the Angelina.
Okay, so that's what I need to track down.
Holy crap, I got to hear that.
You know what?
It's probably on the internet somewhere.
I just got a bonus at work. I think when we're done here, I'm going to log into my Discogs account, see if anybody has the Angelina Japanese EP by Neurotic Outsiders.
See, kids, someone's always spending money on this program. Tonight
chances are it's going to be me if I'm on the program, folks. Right. It just happens.
You get all worked up.
Durling frickin' makes me buy things all the time. You know how many Durling discs I have here that I bought because of him?
Well, I've gotten a lot of, we're doing that April Wine series.
Yeah.
Now, I know we're jumping around. The original scope of the April Wine series was to cover those classic lineup albums. So we're talking Harder, Faster, Nature of the Beast, But then it grew.
And then Durling said you have to cover Frigate and everything else.
But God, there's such good stuff. I think Back to the Mansion's brilliant.
Yeah, they never really sucked.
Well, we were having such a good discussion. That's how it goes. You have a good discussion, and some of these programs just blossom. And that's what April Wine has. And who's talking April Wine, for God's sakes?
Yeah.
Well, we are.
And who's talking Neurotic Outsiders? Well,
nobody.
This will be the best video on YouTube.
It could go viral.
You know what, Grant? I just thought of something. Last time I was on your show, we did the Darkness.
Yeah.
What did I do? I ended up ordering the Double Live Christmas album that you.
You got it.
So I have done this now. This will be twice now that I've ended up buying something because of the show. Mm-hmm. So Grant's Rock Warehouse, putting the money in the pockets of Discogs.
Yes, that's what we do. Discogs has made a lot of money from this show.
Yes, they have. I think they owe you a cut.
They do. But I don't know. I don't have much more to add about this. I think it's a solid 8 for me. If you like any of these bands other than maybe Duran.
Yeah, I would say a Pistols fan might not enjoy it as much as a Guns fan, but I'm sticking with my 9 out of 10.
But if you like Star like that, but if you like, never mind the Bollocks, that guitar sound is here. Steve Jones is in full command, boy. I mean, and I love that tonality he has.
Yeah.
You can't mistake it, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's a great record. It's one of those records that have kind of, Johnny, Checker Pass came out in 1984. I do not believe it came out. I do believe it came out on EMI America.
Well, Johnny, I'm afraid that I'm going to be tapped out when I try to pick up this Angelina Japanese EP. So Checkered Pass is going to have to wait for now.
But make a note.
Make a note.
But I don't think it ever came out on, it probably just came out on vinyl. I don't think that ever came out on CD. I can't imagine.
You'd be surprised, man. Sometimes you go to different territories and you'll find that there's like a Japanese pressing that was in print for a year.
Mm-hmm. Psycho Platters, look at this. Michael, we're changing people's lives tonight.
That's fantastic. I sincerely hope that you'd like this album as much as me. Because for me, this is one of those defining albums. Like if I think back to the year 1996, this album was instrumental.
Right.
Now, it was a shitty time for music, pardon my French, because a lot of the bands that I liked were extinct or on tiny labels putting out crappy sounding records. So I had to go a little bit outside of the box to access music that I liked. And, Neurotic Outsiders are not a classic hard rock band like my core loves. So I had to go a little bit on the punky side, and I'm glad that I did because that was the gateway.
Oh, Psycho did have Checker
Pass for $1.
Well, if you think about it, who bought that? Nobody bought that. It ended up in the dollar bins. I'd have to look at the cover. Maybe I've seen it before.
In a dollar bin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
D Super Show, have it on vinyl.
Thanks.
Everybody's got it. They've got it.
Okay, so I'm the one who's missing out here.
So D, did it ever come out on CD? I'm just curious.
Either way, though, I got to do the Neurotic Outsiders Angelina EP first and foremost because I need all the songs. I want to hear those other tracks that I haven't heard yet.
I do now. I'm all excited.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Remember 25-cent bins? My God, no such thing anymore.
No. Well, we've talked about this before that, all the dollar bin stuff now. Well, no, they're still like, Andy Williams is still in the dollar bin.
You're right.
But, you used to find Journey, you'd find
Helix.
Oh, yeah. I did that show where I pulled out all these metal albums I bought for 50 cents a piece. They were all mint. I bought like this many of them. And I shared on Rachel's Ghost one day, and people are going, "What? That's a $50 album now." I said, "Well, it used to be a 50-cent record." In the 90s.
Gotta remember when this stuff came out, Neurotic Outsiders, this era of the 90s, people were ditching their vinyl. They were desperate to get rid of these big boxes that were taking up space in their precious garage so that they could buy these CDs that they would play in their car. It was a totally different mindset. Vinyl was not considered valueless, but a lot of vinyl was considered valueless. And it was a completely different time. I was getting, rare rainbow things that weren't in print on CD. I was getting rare rainbow for like $5, and it's like, now I have this rainbow album that I can't find on CD. Great. Fantastic. But people were ditching that stuff because, CDs, you got to have CDs.
Well, that's still cool. Like CDs.
Okay, so the Professionals, that's the band that was on that set list.
First solo record in 87. Steve Jones and Paul Cook formed the Professionals after the Pistols broke up.
Thank you, Johnny.
Put out a few releases. The first was in 81.
Thanks, Johnny.
Okay, cool. All right, cool.
Yeah, certainly.
Coolest dollar bin find last year. 1972 on Columbia, Jeremy Spencer and the Children of God. Strange record indeed. Jeremy Spencer from Fleetwood Mac? Holy crap.
Sounds like it.
What a name. Jeremy Spencer and the Children of God.
That's a
wow.
You're really, really setting the bar high when you call your band the Children of God.
Hey, it was the early 70s.
So hey, you got to do something for attention, man.
Whatever you got to do.
Whether you write a song called Jerk and put it out as a single, or you call yourselves the Children of God, you got to do something.
Well, I think we can wrap this up.
Definitely.
Michael Ladano, I hope our discussion has turned some people on to the Neurotic Outsiders. Hell, it's maybe turned a lot of people on to just Steve Jones in general.
I think we've done a service.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rodrigo.
There you go.
I will. Thank you.
Anybody who loves Neurotic Outsiders, check the professionals.
Thank you.
Cool. That was around the time Steve. Okay.
Wow.
Joan
okay.
Jett.
So I didn't even know that. I'm not really a big Joan Jett fan. You guys are opening far too many doors for me tonight. You realize that I only make so much money. But thank you.
Children of God was a cult Jeremy went to.
That's probably true.
Ernesto.
I noticed Ernesto's got lots of 8-track tapes. I have a feeling that he is friends with Tim Derling.
Oh, they have a long history.
Okay.
Ernesto is like an encyclopedia of 8-track. You should see his collection.
Okay.
Tim Derling has also mentioned that he's got a larger collection.
Yeah, but we're not measuring here. It's always been about measuring with these guys.
I'm not measuring, but
no,
I'm quoting Steve. I'm quoting Tim. He says, "Oh, Ernesto's even got way more than I do."
Steve Jones, underrated guitarist.
He's great.
Yeah.
And they always say, that back in the Pistols days, oh, well, we can't play. Oh, bullshit. He can play.
He could. Maybe not.
Great.
Matlock could play. Obviously,
Matlock could play.
Paul Cook, not bad.
Right.
It was basically Sydney that couldn't play.
Yeah. Well, he was great show. Have a great night.
He was there for other reasons than his bass playing. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. He was Johnny Lydon's buddy.
Yeah.
But he couldn't handle it. He was the wrong choice. And I never understood why Glenn Matlock left. Do you know? Did they force him out?
I can't remember the deal, but it was basically, we don't like you anymore, as far as I recall.
But he wrote a lot of the songs.
He was
the musician in the band.
Right. I was going to say, I think he was kind of like the least punk rock of them all. Like he would be the one who's actually into learning about writing songs rather than going up there and
the pictures I've seen, he looks more like a Beatle than a punk rocker.
He's kind of like that John Paul Jones presence where he's just kind of hanging back, laying down the bass and not, getting ripped to shreds.
He was kicked out.
Yeah, so that sounds about right. And of course, Sid had a look and an image, and that took them places. Yeah. It helped. The look, that image, it helped. Yeah, it fit with John's.
Mm-hmm. It did. They look great.
Yeah.
He looked great up there.
Yeah. He was the Milli Vanilli of bass players, though. They didn't even plug him in most nights.
No. He was a mess. Well, we did it. Michael Ladano, we keep getting more.
Malcolm McLaren.
Oh.
Yeah, okay.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank God that the viewers know more than we do.
I mean, all we have to do is sit here and just read comments.
Silly thing. That was the track that the Pistols cover that was in the Toronto set list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, hey, the professionals. I didn't know about that. Now I'm learning. Sorry to keep dragging on.
No, we're good.
We were planning on doing 45 minutes. We did an hour.
Wow, no, I was planning on an hour. We're good.
Well, you told me 45. Yeah, told me 45.
Well, you and I can just go through it and hang it out.
Yeah.
It depends upon who's on the show.
Yeah.
But we can go an hour. We're talking to our people. But speaking of the people, I do want to thank everyone who chimed in tonight because you actually are the ones making the show and we're just here shooting the shit. Make man, I love the comments. I want to appreciate every one of you for coming in and making a comment. And before you get out of here, make sure you put a like down.
Yeah.
So
give it a like, give it a share.
Give it a like, give it a share.
That's what we like.
But anyway, Michael Ladano, God, this was a good show. Great discussion.
Always is, Grant.
Star says, it's Friday. Keep it going.
Star, no offense. I got to go eat. It's 8 o'clock and I haven't had dinner yet, man. Or my friend.
Yeah. Well, It's all good.
Yeah.
Like I said, thanks everybody for showing up. Michael Ladano, it was a pleasure.
Always.
Thanks for throwing this topic out. It was great.
We'll find another good one.
And I want to give you props for turning me on to the Gary Moat interview.
Oh, yeah. That was great, by the way.
It was fun.
I actually, to be honest with you, I don't know anything really about
heavy petting or
burned out wreck. Yeah. So, I wouldn't have been able to do the research in that amount of time anyway. So, you did an awesome job there.
Oh, well, I'll take anything on.
Excellent. Well, I'll try to find another band for us to do another one and done that I'm passionate about.
One and done.
Yeah.
There's plenty. I know, I can't remember what we talked about. Hagar, Shown.
There's that. HSAS.
That's one.
There's another early 90s supergroup, Contraband.
Contraband. Oh, Shadow King is
Shadow King, Vivian Campbell, just before he bailed and went
with
to Def Leppard.
Lou Graham.
Yeah,
that's coming up.
Yeah, River Dogs. That might not be a one and done. It might have been a one and done with Vivian. But there's some good ones, and I've got some pretty fantastic. There's a band out of Canada called Big House. I might want to get you them. You know what? I'm going to send you a track from Big House. See if you're into it. They're a one and done.
Hanoi Rocks.
Hanoi Rocks.
Tooting Beck. What?
I don't know.
I don't know what that is.
I know Big
Urge Overkill 90s releases are.
Dude,
I love Urge.
Yeah, me too. Sister of Anna, man.
Before we sign off, I saw Urge on that. What was the name of the record after?
Saturation.
After Saturation.
Exit the Dragon.
I saw him on that tour. Played the Newport in Columbus.
Nice.
It was the loudest concert I'd ever been to.
Wow.
And my ears have rung ever since that night.
Wow.
Still.
That's something.
And my left particularly. It was unbelievable. And me being a dumbass, I didn't put any ear protection in. And I was still in the back of the auditorium, but my God, it was loud. It made your ears bleed. But I love Urge Overkill. Yeah. Love it.
I'm just getting into them now, but I could be on board for that somewhere down the road.
But Saturation, perfect record.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
So good. Contraband was a blast from my past. All right. You people keep talking.
Okay, so we got 18 more show ideas.
We have 18 more show ideas. Thanks, everybody. See you, Michael. And hey, have a good evening, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the Discogs.
Yes. Spending money.
Moolah.